If you look out your window and you saw somebody light a fire that burned down your neighborhood, how would you feel? You would demand justice. You would want that person prosecuted. What if that person was 13? L.A. sheriffs believe a 13-year-old started the Morris fire above Azusa, which burned 2,100 acres. Let's say the charges are filed. Is a 13-year-old going to have the money to pay for the resources used and the damage caused? Should the parents be held responsible? Our contributors tonight, nationally syndicated columnist, the advice goddess, Amy Alkon, and editor of WitnessLA.com, Celeste Fremon. Celeste, I'll start with you. If you're the district attorney, would you file charges?
I would. I mean, depending upon, of course, whether it was set deliberately. I mean, if this kid did it accidentally, which is it's sounding from the little they'll tell us as if there was some kind of deliberate action, whether it was recklessness or arson. At this point, they aren't saying whether it's arson. But I think, I mean, if this kid deliberately fired a gun and just because no one was hurt, we'd still hold him responsible.
13 years old.
Yeah, but as a juvenile. But as a juvenile, I mean, he's a 13-year-old.
Right. 13 years old, Amy. Would you do it?
Well, I mean, okay, if a kid breaks your window with his baseball, you're going to ask the parents to pay. The 13-year-old, I mean, the question is, did this kid do it? Like Celeste is saying, did he do it on purpose? And also, were the parents negligent in this? If the dad leaves his gun cabinet unlocked and the kid goes and shoots somebody at a liquor store, then you blame the dad. But if the kid got a lighter and went off into the woods, how do you stop that? How can you predict? We've got to get you help so you don't burn down the woods.
All right, let me jump in.
I agree with Amy on that one.
All right, let me jump in. Celeste, let me jump in. Amy, let me jump in. Let me just ask you the question, and we'll do it in 30 seconds. Here's the bottom line. Let's say they charge him, okay? Let's say they convict him, all right? What's this kid going to do? Are his parents going to make good? Do his parents make good in this situation? You know what?
California charges parents $20 a day for the time the kid spends in juvie. I mean, does this replace $92 million in two firefighters'
That's
lives?
My point.
I mean, you can't. There are some things you cannot replace. And actually, the truth is that some kids are just bad seeds. There's neurological evidence on this.
This is not the station fire. The murders didn't happen with this fire.
Yeah, but overall, she's got that, Celeste. But I think overall what she's saying is, fires cause damage, fires take lives. Bottom line is, even if you charge this kid, you convict this kid, so what happens to this kid? Nothing. And are the parents going to pay all of this money to make good? I don't think so. So is this an exercise in futility?
Well, I mean, it's a criminal charge. And I mean, as if he's done something else that's endangering and has an effect on lots of property. I mean, it's whether it's one of two criminal charges.
Well, people want justice. I think you just can't get justice no matter what you do in this case.
Yeah, and I'm the liberal, and I still say charge the kid.
All right, let's move on, ladies. Here we go. Interesting idea now in Orange County. You tell me what you think. If you're arrested for nonviolent misdemeanors, including petty theft, trespassing, and low-level drug possession felonies, and then voluntarily agree to give a DNA sample, they're going to let you go. No charges filed. The idea saves taxpayers money. It cut costs in the legal system. You don't have to go to court. So if you're wrongly accused, you can surrender your DNA and your privacy and avoid a costly legal battle. If you are guilty, you know you're going to give your DNA because you'll get a free pass. Law enforcement will hate the idea. They're basically arresting people for absolutely nothing. And doesn't it seem to reason, if someone has been arrested and given a get-out-of-jail-free card, they'll be back? Amy, is it a fair trade? We'll let you go if you give us your DNA?
I love this. The first crime is free. This is like a Publishers Clearinghouse offer. Go beat up your wife and then just come on down, give us a swab, and we'll let you out. I mean, it's amazing. And then there's a privacy rights thing. You can be arrested and not be guilty of anything. And I'm saying this is the law and order girl.
And the ACLU hates it and the cops hate it. But here, I think it's about something else. This DA in Orange County has been trying to get control of the DNA database since last year, and tried to wrench it away from the sheriff's department, was not successful. So this is another bid to have the prosecutor in charge of the most significant kind of evidence we have in the United States. So I think it's a terrible idea. I think we're focusing on the wrong thing. This is a power grab, and I'm against it from that perspective.
Yeah, and not being wealthy enough to hire a good lawyer shouldn't mean you give up your constitutional rights. I had this idea, why don't we just have a day in Orange County every week where we suspend the Constitution, like alternate side of the street parking rules in New York? I mean, this is what the guy's essentially asking.
I just
with this DNA thing.
I don't get it. You commit a crime, and if you give us your DNA, you go free. I don't get it. Let's move on. Okay. Here's an example, I believe, of a lack of caring and understanding. For years, physically and developmentally disabled have lived in an apartment complex in Monrovia. For many, it was their first taste of independent living. Let me add here, there have been no problems. 2 years ago, a new management firm took over and said, sorry, there's a mistake. This is supposed to be a senior apartment community. So if you're under the age of 62, you're out. The complex opened in 1995, so basically for the last 14 years, the disabled have been living there. Because a new company takes over, do they simply toss everybody out? And here is the most appalling part in my mind. Craig Diamond, the attorney who represents the owner and management firm, said he had no clue as to the special circumstances surrounding these individuals. You know what, Craig? That's your job to know. He added that a resolution in the matter will be determined by state and county agencies that help fund the property. Personally, I think they ought to be ashamed of themselves. Or Celeste, since it's their property. Should they be allowed to do whatever they want to do?
Absolutely not, because they're taking public money, and so this is something where they're getting a lot of money from the state, and they're going to have to. These are supposed to be affordable housing for specific populations, and people with mental disabilities are the population that is the most often ignored. This is a situation. The good news is that the community has come behind the 20 residents with mental disabilities who are about to be tossed out. Taft College has come down on their side. The press has come down on the local press. And so I think the ownership company is really going to have to back off. And for Mr. Diamond to go, oh, gosh, I didn't know. As you said, read your job description, dude.
That's
yeah, actually, I love that, because it's not like these people were sneaking in their motorized wheelchairs in the wee hours, or like some woman walked up in a granny wig 6 months ago. One of these women has been there 14 years. The problem is California law allows senior-only housing, and while Celeste is right, the community's behind them, I think this comes down to a legal issue. Of course, there's also the Wizard of Oz answer. Can somebody please find the owner a heart? But that's a little bit of wishful thinking, and the law is going to answer this, whether or not we like it.
Well, and I think the law is going to come down on the side of the 20 residents. But we'll have to wait and see. Amy's absolutely right. It is going to be a legal issue.
Well, I'll tell you something. If you are the folks, the management company that now assume control of that property, and you try to pull that, I don't even see how you can sleep with yourself at night. All right, let's move on to our next topic now. Okay, put yourself in this position if you would. You're the caterer at an event. You've done a good job, and at the end you're given a tip. A shockingly large tip. $29,387. What would you do? Would you say, excuse me, did you make a mistake? Or take the money?
You got to love this one.
Sarah Gasper took the money. She paid some bills. She bought a car. Now she's being sued by Notre Dame because she did not notify the university of their mistake. Her attorney said, wait a minute, this was a gratuity. They're big tippers. She did nothing wrong. By the way, they wanted to give her $29.87, not $29,387. Amy, should Sarah have to give that money back?
Absolutely. And I saw these protestations. Oh, she didn't know and everything. I'm sorry. That kind of money you don't get for standing behind a lunch counter serving up Jell-O. I mean, I looked at what they make there. An employee of her ilk can get like $6.29 an hour plus gratuities, just under $20,000 a year. And that's her tip. I mean, what was she doing? Who was she serving, and how?
Well, I called some people and they didn't call me back. Well, still, I'm with Amy on this one. I think morally, she needs to give it back. But the problem is she spent it, and I think actually Notre Dame has blown it because it's a gratuity. I think legally, morally, she should give it back. She doesn't have the money. I think Notre Dame may just have to have this be the cost of doing business, and they blew it. So, but we don't really buy her excuse.
Well, no, no. There's no buying that. Here's $29,000. Thank you. You did a fine job. No, there's no question.
Yeah.
Wait, no one's arguing. We don't buy her excuse.
Put an extra tomato on that salad,
and
what's sick? If she was missing $29 from her paycheck, you bet she'd be on the phone to them day and night until she got it resolved.
Absolutely. I would be a tad worried this was going to come back and bite me. So, I probably would have gone the extra mile to make sure that I didn't spend it and have, someone coming after me with a collection company, and a lawsuit. But I think legally, I'd love to know what the attorneys feel, because the fact that it was a gratuity, she's still wrong. but she may be legally in the right.
All right.
Yeah.
We're going to keep an eye on that. Amy and Celeste, nice job tonight. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Fred.
Okay.